Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast. What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? This is Christian Brindle, and I hope you're having a great day today. This is episode 115 of the Everything Medicare Podcast, and as the open enrollment period rages on for people on Medicare, we continue to bring you quality content in the form of this podcast, okay? If this is your first time listening to us, every single week, I bring you 3 podcast episodes where we discuss your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with that golden age called retirement. If you don't know who I am, my name is Christian Brindle. I own a company called Christian Brindle Insurance Services. We're located just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. I've published 2 books on the topic of Medicare, and I've developed a small following nationwide on the topic of Medicare. I've kind of established myself a little bit as a renowned expert. And folks, anytime you make a difference in the world, anytime you're put in a situation where you're making some kind of impact, there's people in the world and throughout that industry, or just in general, that kind of want to drag you down. They want to tear you down as a result of it, okay? This podcast will eclipse 20,000 downloads on multiple different platforms. On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Cast. I could go on and on and on. We'll eclipse 20,000 downloads on this podcast very soon. And about 2 months ago, we started putting the podcast up on YouTube. Maybe it was a little bit before 2 months ago. And we started putting the podcast up on YouTube just to put it out there in a different light. And then we got more requests to do it on video, so now we've been doing it on video. So that's another place that the podcast is also being viewed. Doesn't include our download limit. Just on the audio itself will have been downloaded over 20,000 times very soon, probably within the next week and a half or so. And our podcast, folks, is, in my opinion, the most impactful podcast you can listen to. Of course, I'm a biased party on the topic of Medicare today. We're probably the number 1, if not number 2, most popular podcast or most relevant podcast on the topic of Medicare on every single platform. Number 1 and number 2, like I said. And like I said, anytime you make a difference in the world, there's always those that want to kind of drag you down and do that. And what we found is there's an organization and a person actually on YouTube that has very, very prevalent Medicare content on YouTube, and I think it's actually very good. And but it's always disgraceful, I think, when somebody tries to drag down someone that's coming up. What we've always done is try to provide information in a way that's going to help people on Medicare. And what I found out that I find hilarious is this person, whether they're doing it themselves or having their staff do it, they create multiple fake accounts on YouTube to dislike our videos, to try to make them look less appealing, okay? Fake dislikes, if you will. And the reason why we know this is happening is because YouTube has kept us informed that they're all coming from the same IP address, so they remove them. So they don't stay on very long. The person doing this isn't very smart, because what they don't realize is any type of engagement helps out our YouTube videos, and so this actually causes us to get more views than we would have without them. So thank you. Thank you for helping us get more exposure. It's hilarious to me because, for me anyway, I wouldn't have time to do that. The people that work here with me wouldn't have time to do that. But I digress. Anytime you rise up in the world, anytime you try to make a difference in the world, there's those that want to stop you and bring it down. And trust me, folks, there's people out there in the industry that don't want me relaying the messages that I'm relaying to you about Medicare. They want me to keep my big mouth shut. And I have no intention of doing so. So let's just get right into this topic. So today, folks, we're talking about agents over the phone. Nowadays, in 2019, going into 2020, it's become more prevalent than ever for agents to work with people, work with their clients exclusively through phone, definitely not face-to-face in multiple different areas. And is it a bad thing? Well, in my opinion, I think it can be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing. It just kind of depends on the circumstances, and that's what we're going to get into. So, let me paint a picture for you of two different types of scenarios here. Scenario number one. We'll call our first example John Doe. Okay. John Doe randomly, out of the blue, gets a phone call, a cold call, if you will, from somebody on the other side of the country. Okay, John Doe, we'll say John Doe lives in California. John Doe gets a call from someone in Florida, let's say. Okay, saying that he can save John Doe a bunch of money. Okay, on his Medicare supplement plan, specifically. John Doe is paying a really high price on his Medicare supplement plan. This person provides evidence that this rate exists with this particular insurance company. John Doe qualifies for this certain Medicare supplement plan, passes all the health questions. They're able to get the same plan for maybe $50 less a month. Is that a good thing for John Doe? Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have made the process any better or easier, or made necessarily the rate been any better if John Doe worked with a local agent. That's not the problem when it comes to working with agents by phone. There's good to it and there's bad to it, and it just depends on how that agent or agency does their business. Okay? There's nothing wrong with working with someone by phone as long as they can provide everything that a local agent can do. The problem is they can't always provide what a local agent can provide because they don't know as much about the market. This is incredibly challenging, especially when you're working with someone on their Medicare Advantage plans. For every market, we work with people, and we're in 5 states, Utah, Texas, Idaho, Oregon, and Florida. We research heavily the markets for these Medicare Advantage plans. We talk with local people in the area. We know quite a bit about it, but there's a lot of agencies and businesses that don't. And so, more times than not, you're put in a situation where you might not be able to be successful working with an agent over the phone. Now, there's exceptions to this. There's definitely good and bad people out there that are doing this. It's no different than the agents that come to your house and sit with you in person. There's good ones and there's bad ones, and today we're going to talk about exactly how to determine the difference between good agents and bad agents, whether it's over the phone or not, okay? But there's some particular challenges that you need to watch out for exclusively over the phone that you might not have to watch out for as much with someone coming to your home. Let's take a break. Stay with me into segment 2. I'll tell you exactly what, in my opinion, you should be looking for after a quick word from this week's sponsor, Randy W. Hall, the Mr. Nice Guy Medicare Advisor. Don't go anywhere.
What's up, everybody? This is actually Randy W. Hall, Mr. Nice Guy Medicare Advisor, not Christian Brindle, your esteemed host. I'm here to tell you about my Medicare agency, Mr. Nice Guy Medicare Advisor, based here in Tennessee. For the past 10 years, I've been helping Medicare beneficiaries just like you in Tennessee and Kentucky maximize their Medicare. If you're a regular listener of this podcast, you know Christian always encourages you to deal with a broker in your state who sells all the different plans and will give you not just a quote, but also advise you and educate you in a way that is simple to understand. We know how confusing and overwhelming the whole process can be. We do it all for folks on Medicare, from supplements to Advantage plans, Part D, cancer products, hospital indemnities, and more. So if you want to get a free quote or a consultation, I urge you to call 615-578-5174. Again, that's area code 615-578-5174. Or for more information, you can visit my website and read all about me at MrNiceGuyMedicareAdvisor.com. That's all one word, MrNiceGuyMedicareAdvisor.com. And again, why deal with a jerk? when you can deal with a nice guy.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with me through and into our second segment, and thank you for that message from Randy W. Hall, the Mr. Nice Guy Medicare Advisor. And folks, if I seem a little low energy today compared to our normal scheduled program, you have to forgive me. I'm a little under the weather. I came down with something, but I'm fighting through it, and we're going to make sure that we deliver a quality episode of this podcast for you today. So today we're talking about how do you need to look and what do you need to watch for when you're deciding if you want to work with an agent over the phone. Okay, so there's two types of people that work with people over the phone. There are your traditional call centers, where what I mean by that is, people in cubicles making $10 an hour. They might not even be in the United States. If they are in the United States, they have a revolving door of people that come in and out of their organization. They might make a small commission if they sell you something. People, what I'm trying to say is people that are completely underqualified to talk with you about your Medicare health plan. Okay? And these places exist. Okay? I've even had a situation recently where, there was a call center that was calling one of my personal clients. And they were pitching him on a program that didn't even exist. It was a program that existed in other states, but it wasn't something that existed here. They were saying that it was through one of the big name insurance companies here. I'm not going to say the name of them. I actually turned them over to that insurance company that does business here, and they're investigating it right now, but they're not happy about it. Let me put it that way. And that's what I have to do to protect people, because they were basically offering something that did not exist here. What they were doing was illegal. And what it turns to find out, what appears to be, from talking with my contact at this particular insurance company, is they're not a legitimate agency. They don't even represent this insurance company. They're trying to steal people's identity. That's what they think. It's a real messy situation. They're like a discount program for prescriptions. I mean, they don't even offer Medicare plans. It's a really weird situation, but they're advertising themselves as if they do. Those kind of things happen, and they're Medicare scams that happen all the time, where people over the phone, act like they're with Medicare, or they work with Medicare, or they're Medicare specialists. They're just trying to get your information. You have to be careful of those. So those ones exist. It might not always be a criminal organization. It might just be, excuse me, it might just be an organization that just, like I said, is underqualified to give you good recommendations. I mean, they might not know anything about your particular market. I mean, especially if you're shopping Medicare Advantage plans. Because when you're shopping Medicare Advantage plans, they can't tell you about the network size, possibly. They can't tell you, which plan has, your local hospital systems and which ones doesn't. I mean, they probably don't have the time to look that up with you on the phone. A lot of times these call centers are dealing with people from all 50 states. So, in that aspect, unless you're working with someone that you trust, it can be a little hairy. Now, I'm not saying working with someone on Medicare Advantage necessarily over the phone is always a bad thing, but what I'm saying is if you're working with underqualified people, and a lot of times people that work at call centers are underqualified people. So that's something you got to watch out for. The scenarios where I think you're in a good spot to work with someone over the phone is if you're working with a broker, like an actual broker, somebody that has a good reputation, someone that has a lot of credentials that you can easily view either on their website or by doing a quick Google search, or maybe they have reviews from current clients, things like that. Those things can help. Somebody that knows what they're doing, and there's a lot of good ones out there, but there's also a lot of bad ones. So it's really not that different from working with an agent that comes to your home. It has more to do with, working with someone that's qualified to work with you, to talk with you, but there's more challenges by doing Medicare Advantage plans that way probably than there are Medicare supplements, because Medicare supplement programs are the same everywhere. They're standardized. The only thing that's different is the rates. Okay? Don't go anywhere. let's take a quick break. After a quick word from this week's sponsor, I'll be back in our third and final segments, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this topic. Don't go anywhere! Welcome back, everybody, to segment 3 of this episode of the Everything Medicare Podcast. Okay, so basically, folks, what I'm trying to say is there are some difficulties with working with someone over the phone, but it's not necessarily always going to be a bad thing. You just got to make sure that you're working with somebody that, number one, has your best intentions, the best intentions for you, I should say, in mind, and number two, that they're qualified to talk with you. Those are the two things. As long as the person you're talking to has those two things and you can sense it, you can tell by doing your research on this person, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The other thing that you want to be careful about is I've seen a lot of situations where, people will recommend something not knowing that it's bad information, because they're underqualified. That can happen. Call centers are tricky. But there are some really good ones out there that can help you on your plan, but there's also some very bad ones. You need to know what to look for. And in my opinion, these are the things that you can look for. Okay? I mean, me and my organization, we work with a lot of people over the phone in different states. So, obviously, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because if I did, we probably wouldn't offer that service. We probably wouldn't do it. We work with people in, like I said, 5 different states. I don't fly to all 5 states to work with people. So, It all has to do more with the person on the other end of the phone, just like it does when the person is on the other side of your coffee table talking to you. It has more to do with the person. Make sure you're finding a good person, but working with an agent over the phone is not necessarily a bad thing as long as it's a good, quality, competent agent. Okay? I apologize to cut this episode short, folks. Like I said, I'm just a little under the weather, so forgive me. And thank you so much for sticking with us all the way to the end. I hope you're having a great Medicare enrollment period. And as always, if you live in the states of Utah, Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Oregon, again, that's Utah, Texas, Florida, Oregon, and Idaho, I would love to talk with you this enrollment period if you think like you could use some assistance. Even if you just want to compare your Medicare plan to make sure that it's the best fit for you going into the new year. My office number is 801-255-5340, 801-255-5340, or you can shoot me an email if you're more comfortable with that. My email address is christianb@xmission.com, Christian, B as in boy, at xmission.com. Tell me a little bit about your situation. It never hurts to check. Sometimes we can help, sometimes we can't. At the very least, you're in a good situation to where you can sleep better at night knowing you're on the best thing for you. I'll talk with you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.